Hey guys, this edition of We is Greater Than Me is called The Frustration of Doing It Right. The fact is, everybody wants the house to stand. Nobody really notices the beams. I was thinking about this recently because there have been times in my career when I honestly felt frustrated by being good at my job. And I'm not saying that to be cocky. Hopefully, you all have confidence that you're doing a good job. And before anyone misunderstands me, let me explain. I've been blessed with some phenomenal coworkers over the years, some of the best people I've ever worked with. The kind of people who can walk into absolute chaos and somehow find a reason to laugh. You know what I'm talking about. The day is going crazy. Everything's falling apart. Everything's going wrong. The schedule's off. The plan isn't working. Someone's having a meltdown in the corner. 3 new problems show up before you've solved the first one. And somehow somebody cracks a joke and everybody laughs. Sometimes laughter isn't because things are really funny. Sometimes laughter is survival. Sometimes you laugh because if you don't, you might just break down and cry. Now, my coworkers and I have become experts at that. We figured things out. We adjusted. We covered for each other. And we stepped in when someone needed a break. We changed plans on the fly. We knew each other's strengths. And when we knew each other's weaknesses, we became a stronger team. You see, we knew when someone was reaching their limit. And if we're being completely honest, some days our students, at least in my classroom, ran the whole show. We used to joke that if they ever organized and worked together, we would be done. But every day we made it work. From the outside, it looked easy. Inside, we knew it wasn't. See, years ago, I remember asking a question that had been bothering me. I looked around and watched all these other teams and departments getting additional support, extra help, additional resources, more attention. Meanwhile, our team just kept pushing through. So I asked about it. The answer I received was meant as a compliment. I know it was. Because they said, "We don't worry about you all because you have it together." I remember standing there thinking, wait a minute. So what you're saying is we're being punished for being good at our jobs. Now, I know that's not what they meant at all. I know they meant it as a compliment. And in their minds, they were praising us. They saw a team that was functioning, a team that solved problems, a team that handled challenges, a team that always found a way where there seemed like there was no way. What they didn't see was what it cost us to keep finding that way. They saw success, they didn't see survival. They saw stability, they didn't see sacrifice. They saw the finished product. They didn't see the constant repairs happening behind the walls. And that's where the lesson lives. You see, it's not because this only happens in schools. This happens everywhere. It happens in organizations. It happens in churches. It happens in businesses. It even happens in families. The strongest people often get overlooked because everyone assumes they're fine. The strongest departments often get overlooked because everyone assumes they don't need support. The strongest teams often get overlooked because they have learned how to survive. In house building terms, we pay attention to what looks damaged. We rush to the wall with the crack in it. We notice the roof that's leaking. Of course, we immediately address the window that's broken. But what about the beam that's carrying the weight? What about the support structure that has been holding everything together for years? Just because it hasn't collapsed doesn't mean it isn't carrying a heavy load. Just because it isn't complaining doesn't mean it isn't struggling. Just because it continues to perform doesn't mean it doesn't need support. One of the biggest mistakes organizations make is assuming that the teams producing the best results need the least attention. Sometimes they need it the most, not because they're failing, because they're carrying. They're carrying extra work. They're carrying additional responsibilities. They're carrying other people's gaps. They're carrying the culture. They're carrying the mission. They're carrying the house. And eventually, every beam reaches a point where it needs reinforcement. A healthy organization doesn't wait until a team is falling apart before offering support. A healthy organization checks on the teams that are succeeding too. It asks questions, simple questions. What do you need? What's working? What's becoming difficult? Where are you stretched thin? How can we help before you hit a breaking point? Because the goal isn't simply to keep the house standing. The goal is to make sure the people holding it up can stand too. The truth is, many of the strongest teams aren't asking for praise. They aren't asking for awards. They aren't asking for recognition. They're simply hoping someone notices that making it look easy doesn't mean it is. So, if you're a leader, don't assume silence means strength. Don't assume success means support isn't needed. And if you're part of a team that's carrying a heavy load, don't mistake your ability to survive for proof that you should have to do it alone. The best houses aren't built by one strong beam. They're built when every part of the structure carries its share of the weight. Because in we is greater than me culture, we don't wait until something breaks before we pay attention. We take care of the entire house, even the parts that are doing their job so well that no one even notices that they're there.